Cool. Welcome.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
There's so many directions I could go, so many things I'd love to talk about, but for those who don't know you, just give a high-level overview of who you are, what you do.
Man. Already such a profound question. Who am I? My name's Noé Barnett, spelled weird. That's always played just an interesting role in life. Whenever you have to pronounce your name and spell your name, it's spelled N-O-E, and there's like an accent on the E. Apparently it's the French way to spell it. Not sure why my parents decided to do that, but I think it kind of laid the foundation for living just a interesting, different life. You know, I've always kind of never felt like I fit in. And I think that just set the foundation for me just being comfortable being myself, being an artist. And that's what I do for a living. I paint murals and canvas, and I'm either working, I'm either painting, or I'm serving in some capacity at my church. That's a high-level overview, I would say.
Awesome. Let me make sure my phone's turned off. I want this to go rudely blaring. Talk about not fitting in, because I wasn't expecting you to say that, but
Really?
What was it about growing up, or?
A number of things. Born and raised in Albuquerque, and as I'm sure most people who live here know, there's not that many black people, so
What?
It's not common to be from here and not be, I guess, and be black, you know. And so that already just set the I keep saying set the foundation, but I guess that's where my mind is at. But yeah, it just was a breeding ground for just that one single thing. Grew up playing sports, and dad was in law enforcement. Grew up wanting to do that. Again, being black and being in law enforcement around the time that I was doing it was very contentious. Didn't grow up doing much artwork. But when I transitioned into that, because I came from a sports background and because I didn't know much about the art scene, it was a lot of imposter syndrome. A lot of my peers just had a vernacular and a vocabulary about art and a knowledge about art that I just had no idea about. And so it just seemed like I was just ignorant, like athlete trying to like make it in a new, unfamiliar territory. And coming again, it's in every capacity, I feel like I've never really fit in, but it's been a blessing and I wouldn't change any of it.
So your parents were already here. You were born here. So
Yeah.
How long were they here?
A few years, Air Force. That's
Okay.
how they ended up here, both from the Midwest. They met here. My mom's dad was in the Air Force, which brought her here. She actually was here for longer. She went to El Dorado, so she graduated from high school. My dad came shortly after high school from the Air Force as well. So
Was he like a military cop, or?
yep, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So he went from MP to like working for the city or the state, or what
For the federal, was a federal agent.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted to do. And so worked for APD for 3 years as a service aide. Was in the police academy for APD a number of times. I would go in, something would happen, I'd get kicked out, and because I'm stubborn, I had my whole life planned out. You know how when you're young, you're like, by 25, I'm gonna have this, and by 30, I'm gonna have this.
Oh wait, no, I truly have no idea what you're talking about. My
Really?
life was not like that at all.
You never had like an agenda or like?
I didn't even know what was happening after high school, after graduation. Everyone's like, "What are you gonna do?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean? What am I gonna do? I'm gonna party." Oh,
Really?
like, I was just an idiot. I didn't have a clue. But,
Hey, that's a good thing, I would say.
but that's cool. You had your life kind of mapped out. So what took it off the rails, or what put it on a different trajectory?
The police thing, just I felt like I was just ramming my head into a wall trying to like open this door. I feel like I was good at my job as a service aide, and I feel like I would have been a good officer, but for whatever reason, I would just not advance in the academy. They'd kick me out for like crazy things in hindsight. And if you want to, we can go into like the actual like tangible things that took place that transpired. But essentially, the last time I was in the academy, they fired me, and they told me I couldn't apply again. And I was in the process of applying with the sheriff's department as well, so I could have gone that route. Could have gone to other departments, but for whatever reason, that one just kind of killed that desire, killed that want in me. And I remember just being at rock bottom, at ground zero, like had this whole thing, whole career path, everything I wanted to do just like taken from me, and just had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I was 22, had gone to UNM for a little bit of a stint, but again, just rock bottom. I remember just crying, like being on my bed, talking to my dad, like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, which is crazy at being such a young age, just like thinking your future is just done. And at that point, that's when I decided to go back to art school, or go back to school in general. Decided to just declare fine art as my major at UNM for no real particular reason. In hindsight, obviously I'm a man of faith, and I believe that God has orchestrated all of these things for my betterment in hindsight. So that's why I think this all transpired, and I went back to school for art, and the rest has been history. Yeah.
So what gets you kicked, or was it, you said there were like 3 different times in police academy. So what was the first time?
I don't remember the exact timeline off the top of my head. This was 10 years ago, 11 years ago, but there was just a number of things. So the last time, I do remember the last time vividly. When you're in the academy, you show up in the morning and you bring all your gear, you put it in your locker, and you line up for PT in the gym. And obviously you have a lot of gear. You're dressed in like workout attire because that's the first thing you do in the morning. You bring your gun belt and your dress shirt and just everything. You bring it, you put it in your locker. I did all my stuff, and I was one of the last ones in the locker room to go out into the gym, and there was a gun belt just laying around in the locker room, which is obviously like a no-no. So I took that and I put
like with a gun in it?
There's not, don't actually, in the academy, you're not just walking around with like actual guns, but they treat it as such because that's how you're supposed to treat it. And so it's like a cardinal sin. That's like, again, a no-no. So took his belt, put it in a empty locker so it wasn't just lying around. We go do PT, we come back. I forgot about it because I'm so laser focused on myself, not trying to get in trouble. And I was walking on eggshells at that point because I'd been in the academy a number of times before and gotten kicked out again for what I felt was trivial stuff that other people weren't getting in trouble for. So again, walking on eggshells, just focused on myself. I get dressed. The guy whose belt it was doesn't say anything to us, but he walks out of the locker room without his belt. And again, they're just giving it to him, like, as you can imagine, like a drill sergeant just like yelling like in your face, "Where the F's your belt?" Like, and I was like, "Oh, I remember that," but I didn't like go get it at that point. Then there's like a hierarchy in the academy. So you have your cadets, and like they're also cadets, but they're kind of like a supervisor in that capacity. So I go and give the belt to his like cadet supervisor, and then they give it to the actual instructors. And they're like, "Where did you get this?" They just keep asking, like, where did this come from? And I don't say anything. I just keep my mouth shut because I'm not trying to get in trouble. They keep asking for the rest of the day. Don't say anything. Nothing comes of it. The next day comes around. They ask again. They're just like, "Just tell us who put the belt in the locker and you won't get in trouble." And then I said, "Well, I put the belt in the locker," and then they fired me. And yeah, that was the last time.
Wow. How much of your desire for being a cop and going that route was because you looked up to your dad? Did your dad ever put pressure on you to go that route? What was your relationship like with your dad in that aspect?
No, never any pressure. I saw his lifestyle. I saw the life he provided for us. And I always wanted to like work with my body in a sense. So yeah, the job just looked enticing. There was never any pressure or anything like that. So
must have felt bad though to wash out with
yeah.
your dad being in the profession and being like, "Oh."
Yeah, kind of felt like I let him down. And then when you tell your like military based family you're going to go be an artist, that doesn't go over very well. So it took them some years to kind of accept that this was a feasible path. Because, I mean, you're kind of unique in a sense, but with Riley, I'm sure it's like it's precarious, especially early on when you're just trying to make a living with no consistent income or no health insurance. And
yeah, so I'm curious about that part of your life, right? What's going on right now today? What are you working on these days?
A number of things. Next big project is for the city. Route 66, the street is turning 100, the whole street across the country. And so the city and the state are sponsoring some work to commemorate like that centennial. And so that'll be the next project, hopefully in June. And then obviously just a lot of walls like intermittently in between there, staying busy again, which is a blessing.
What do you feel when you are driving around town and you see your own work? Is it like, I mean, in my head, I'm imagining if it were me, I might see a wall and go, oh, I remember it was a hot day, or that homeless guy came up to me and harassed me that day, or I was out of paint, or like, what goes through your head when you see your work?
Not much, really. I kind of disassociate.
Really?
Yeah, I don't really. It's weird. Yeah, I kind of forget about it in a sense. Unless I like take the time to like actually sit and think about the process and the actual execution of the wall. But yeah, usually I'm just like, I don't even like, it doesn't even register. And if it does, the first thought is I would have done that differently. That doesn't look good. It's like a critique more so than anything.
What's the ratio of like, I mean, how often is a client coming to you with the core idea and saying, Noah, we want you to paint this and that, versus Noah, we have no idea what we want, or we just trust you, you're a great artist, come up with something cool? What's that ratio like?
At this point, it's more so the latter. People, I guess, kind of trust at this point that if they kind of just give me a vision, that I'll be able to come up with something that fits their vision and fits their brand. So that's been a blessing as well. Not early on, you're kind of just taking whatever, and if that's a very strict like paint my grandfather or paint, like they're just coming to you with very strict ideas and a strict, just no wiggle room, no room for creativity, then you take it because you're just so desperate and just hungry. So how
did you even like begin pricing your work? How did you know where to even sort of build from as a base? Because you know how it is with artists, like a struggling photographer is going to do work for free for their friends, and then it builds into like, hey, somebody's going to pay me $100 to shoot their portrait, and it just builds. But there's obviously a point at which you can't sustain that life because you got to have the money. So how do you price your work?
Yeah, time. It took a while, and it's still like a pseudoscience, I feel, but just time and knowing how long something's going to take. I kind of reverse engineered this way of thinking about it. So the way that I always explain it, if there's 52 weeks in a year and I know I want to make 52 grand and something's going to take me a week, then after that week, I need to walk home with $1,000. That's just a easy structure to think about it. And so if I need to walk away with 1,000, then I need to think about my materials, my taxes, add that on to this week, and then that's how much I want to charge. So I have a goal of like a number that I want to hit at the end of the year, and then all my working days simply have a price on them. And so if something's going to take me X amount of time, then I'm able to just price things based on that.
For your paint, do you look at like the square footage of a wall and decide, okay, is this many dollars a square foot typically, so I'm going to need this much? And I was curious too, is how much has inflation hurt paint prices?
Not much actually. No. Okay. It's been pretty consistent. Luckily, a lot of spray paint comes from Europe, and so it hasn't been hit by tariffs really late yet. Hopefully it never does, but in terms of pricing, it's more so because square footage is not all equal. So you could have a wall that's very dense, very detailed, and a wall that's just very simple. So for me, that's not always hasn't been a good way to determine price. or paints or materials or anything. And at this point, I kind of just guesstimate like how much materials are going to cost for a wall.
Did you ever like, you've got a lot of experience at this point in your career, but did you ever put paint on a wall and just like started running, or you thought like, oh, this is like way less porous than I realized? I mean, how do you decide like do you have to use different paints for different material for surfaces rather, or how does that work?
Not really. Spray paint is very durable, very versatile. And there are different ways to prep walls with primer and taking old paint off. If a wall's peeling off, then you got to get all of that old stuff off just so you're not painting onto a temporary like substrate. For posterity, you don't want to just paint on something that's going to fade. But spray paint is versatile. You could pretty much paint on anything and it'll hold up. So
you mentioned imposter syndrome earlier, and I think probably a lot of artists, I mean, I certainly do too. I think every human goes through that, but what is that like in your head? What is that self-talk that's the imposter talking to you when you hear that voice?
Yeah.
Because I know it's not your moral shortcomings.
Yeah, I mean, that's
your dad was a cop. Too. What were you going to get away with, right?
Right.
You had to be a good kid.
Yeah. I mean, well acquainted me in that voice, I would say, which has been a blessing and a curse because it kind of drives you to work and strive and just have like a massive chip on your shoulder in a way, which has its downfalls, has its pitfalls, but also again makes you like put in the work. And I think because I grew up playing sports and grew up again, my dad being in the military, I brought like a very strict like discipline into the artwork, which has served me like so well. It's been such a blessing. But it's definitely started in art school, fresh off of getting fired, fresh off of that whole stint, going into something as a 22, 23-year-old with these kids who are 5 years younger than me, who seem to know a lot more than me. And it was just a trying time for sure. There's a few professors that I kind of still keep in touch with that were just pivotal in my like progression, who kind of just put wind in my sails and gave me the confidence to keep going. Because especially at UNM, the art that they kind of value is not as representational, and it's more about the idea. It's more about the symbolism and the metaphor. And so when I'm showing up with stuff that's, I don't know a good example, but if you envision me like drawing this water bottle, it's about the execution. In my mind, I was just trying to do it as like realistically as possible. And early on, I was not thinking about the idea or anything like that. So that was definitely a struggle. And I think now the imposter syndrome is kind of weaned and the voice is a lot lower, and I'm able to just quiet that and not even think about it because it doesn't matter. I'm able to just like show up and work, and not, if it sucks, it sucks, and I'm just going to show up the next day and try and make it better. And more of a professional, like, and less of an artist in that sense. Like, artist is so esoteric and so like in the air, and I think just approaching that with a grounded and regimented and disciplined work ethic and mindset has been my best asset, I would say. How would you answer that question? With the imposter syndrome?
I have a joke about it from my stand-up set that I haven't delivered yet, but it's basically something like, I have multiple personality disorder and they all have imposter syndrome. So, but I mean, I was just sitting here thinking, like, I wonder if that's a voice that comes from within or if it's a voice that comes from without, and how it, because for me, I don't know, life is sort of like walking. It's like, I think I smoked enough weed when I was young that I had this experience that never went away, which was like, I'm living life through a headset. Like I'm behind my own eyeballs observing the world, and there's a piece of me that the world never sees. And so I think imposter syndrome is usually me telling me, you're lame at this, or people are going to think this. but I'm also old enough now. I've reached like official senior citizen status level to where it's like, I don't care anymore because it's like, get off my lawn.
Yeah,
I'm old enough that it doesn't bother me. But I think just being an artist, for me, I don't know about you, but like I really do sort of feed off a certain amount of the reaction to the work I do more than just like you'll hear an artist say, oh, it's just about the work. And for me, it's like the work's cool, but I really feel like I'm always doing it for somebody else's purpose or even for the meaning for me to have any enjoyment in it myself. Like I want a client to look at the video work we do and go, wow, you guys did a great job. And for me, that's the most satisfying. Like, and I was, on that note, I was looking at your YouTube channel today, which 12,000 subscribers. Congratulations today, officially. I think it was like 11.9 the other day. But anyway, you get so many good positive comments in the comments section, people that you've inspired. So, you know, that, what for you is that thing that you really find the most satisfaction in the work you're doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I came across this. Something clicked recently about this, the feeling with the work, and there's like an internal drive that's always there to create, which everyone doesn't have, or maybe they do, I don't know, but it seems like
seems like some don't.
Yeah, the drive to just make things is just like inherent, and when you begin the process to make it, it's almost like there's like a splinter that just forms, and it's like, it's not like you can't live, like you can continue to go about your life, but this thing is just a pester, and like you have to keep working, you have to figure out the issue with this project or this painting to get this splinter out. And once I'm satisfied with the work and the splinter's out and it's no longer like this thing in the forefront of my brain, then I'm satisfied, you know? I think for whatever reason, I shouldn't say that, but I think I have such high standards for myself that if I'm content with what I'm doing, then I think everyone else will be. And so whenever I'm doing something, if I'm happy with it, then I think then other people will be, because I'm such a self-critic in that sense. I don't know if that answered the question, but
I think so. I was thinking about you when I watched, it's the last video you posted where you were competing for the album cover. Your reaction.
Terrible.
Well, you know what? It wasn't terrible, but it was really interesting because what I noticed was that it seemed to me like each of those other artists had gone beyond just the album cover, and they like addressed the sleeve and the center of the whatever, I forget now, but I kind of watched your reaction of like, ooh, oh, like I could see you kind of realizing like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But again, the comments in that video, there's a lot of people that said, I voted for yours. I thought, so you're always pleasing a certain audience, you know, that's the thing about, no, it's anything, right? You can't please everybody all the time.
Yeah.
That's just one of those maxims of life. That's just true. But yeah, I mean, I voted for yours too, not just because you're my friend and I know you, but because I really did like the work. I mean, I really thought, and I liked how thoughtful you were about describing your approach to it. So, I mean, where do your ideas come from? Are they all rooted in your head, or do you get? I mean, what inspires you? What gives you these ideas?
Oddly enough, I think most of my ideas come from the things that I read. I listen to a lot of books. I read a lot, and I think I see things in pictures, but a lot of things come from words. And so it's an interesting relationship. A lot of ideas come from the Bible. I'm always reading that. And yeah, that's where most of my ideas come from. I have like a little reading list on my website that just trying to share things that I come across that I really have gotten a lot from. And yeah, I think the written word inspires a lot of my visual ideas.
Yeah, on the note of words and on your shirt, obviously focus on Jesus. You're a believer. You're
Yes,
a Christian. What were you raised that way? Has your family always raised you that way? What's been your background with Christianity?
Yeah, born and raised in the church. Something I made personal, because obviously when you're...
Okay, buddy, stop it. It's okay. It's okay. It's just the neighbors. We have new neighbors, and so he's a little skittish. Hey, buddy, come here. Sorry, no. Come on, Cupid.
No
Sit
worries.
down.
Yeah, when something is just natural, it's not as personal. So, you know, when you grow up with something, you kind of don't make it your own and take it for granted. And everything that happened with the police department when I was kind of, again, at rock bottom, that was a catalyst for me to see if I really believe this, you know. And I think those were formative years for me, for my faith. And yeah, there's nothing I would, I guess, say that I believe more. Nothing I would stake my life on more than that. But I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit, and obviously you have differing views about
some unorthodox positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I think we share a common faith in a creator of the universe, which is sort of the root layer. Yeah, I've had people within my own family who raised me that way who now have suddenly bailed off that and decided maybe that's not true. And that's been really interesting to kind of navigate for me, because it's like, that's for me, it's like, oh, well, is my faith mine, or is it because I was just taught it for no other reason? But I think, I don't know if you and I talked about this too, but one of my favorite passages in scripture, it's in Exodus. And it's when the Israelites are being given the blueprints for the tabernacle that they're going to wander around with for, unbeknownst to them, a good 40 plus years. Yeah. But the layout of all these details and its descriptions of carving and of material, and then, you know, Yahweh says, "Behold, I have put my spirit in Bezalel."
Yep.
And it's that. I think it's what you were saying earlier that I agree with. That not everybody has this creative spark, and it's not to say that we're better than anybody. It's just to say that the Creator allocates different portions of, call them gifts, call them talents, or whatever, and so some of us land with these, like, for, I don't know about you, like, there's the other scripture that says the eye never has enough seeing, nor the ear hearing, which is good economic news for artists and musicians, right? Because you're never satiated. You never get tired of looking at things or hearing things. But for you, I think what's different, unique about you, and it's not exclusively true, because I know that you've had a few artists help you on a few projects, but for the most part, when you do work, it's all you. You know, a musician has a band typically, or there's other, filmmakers and stuff. There's all these elements, but with an artist that's just working with a medium and paint, it's all you. So it's a very singular focused thing. And I don't know, you got anything to say about that? Just curious what your thoughts are about that idea.
Just about the solitude, or yeah. Man, I think that kind of goes back to the gifting. Like, I hear so many times from people, like, I can't even draw a stick figure, and that's just like the idiom that people use to just say that they weren't, like, naturally talented. And I don't personally feel that I was naturally talented, and I think the craft of drawing, the craft of painting can be learned by anybody, frankly. It just takes time to learn. And I think, going back to the question, because I'm such an introvert and am able to spend so much time by myself, it just lends to spending countless hours in the studio up late by myself, like, just focused on the craft. And then because of that, I'm able to get better and improve. And then you improve and you get a job and you're able to spend more time and pay your bills and spend more. It's just like this snowball effect. So the solitude is something I'm just naturally good at. You know, I'm just good at being by myself. I don't strive to be in crowds or anything like that. And sometimes I have to fight that and make it a point to get out of my own space. But and going back to what you initially brought up about, like, the spirit being given to, like, the initial creators, I think such a special gift, but it's also weighty, because in thinking of God as, like, the ultimate creator, it's like this almost entrusting of this very sacred thing to be someone who makes things in the same way that the ultimate maker makes things. It's like a healthy weight, I would say, to bear. And it's such a rarity to be able to pay your bills and make a living, like, making things. There's just all these things that that factor into just like the beauty of being a creative for a living and trying to carry that mantle and carry that weight with I guess just to the best of our ability, you know?
Yep. Okay, now I got to bring up a controversial topic.
Let's hear it.
Here we go, man. You did a video. You did the mural for the city on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Yeah.
And it was like MLK. It was, I think, Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass.
It was his wife.
His wife, okay.
Yeah.
At the end of that video, you say something. You go,
right around Black History Month, which is trash, by the way.
Because you said, and then you're like, this is during Black History Month, which is garbage.
Oh, that was a different video.
Was that a different video?
That was a different video.
Okay, so, the Black History Month is garbage. Coming from a black man was pretty hilarious, but
yeah.
Tell me why you said that.
Obviously I go into that more in that sense, but at that time things were just so tense and so volatile. And I just don't think like singling out a certain people group during a certain month is beneficial for the unification and even the bettering of that group. You know, if we're only looking at things and spotlighting things in these 28 days, which is ironic, it's the shortest month of the year. But if this is the only time that we're like looking at history of this certain people group, then it seems like more of a detriment to me.
I agree, because there's so many aspects to humanity that you could segment out. There's like, well, where's the month for the midget dwarf with toenail fungus who's an amputee?
Yeah.
Where's that month? You know, it's like there's just too many. And I know you're a unifier. You know, I know that that's your message and that's what you'd like to bring. Yeah, I mean. And you brought it up in the beginning that, you know, Albuquerque is not exactly the most black, rich in population town. So how do you notice that when you go to another city that is like Dallas or Atlanta? Are you like, wow, there's a lot more black people? What do you go through your head having just been raised here where there's just such a dearth?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely notice. It's hard not to. My dad lives in Mississippi, which is like I think it's majority black. I think that state is one of the few that's majority. And so you definitely notice. But I mean, I love Albuquerque. And again, like you said, whenever I look at people or whenever people look at me, I hope they don't look at my skin tone. And I kind of struggled with that over the past few years because at certain times I've been given opportunities because especially in this city, if there's like
we need some black people to represent us.
I honestly like, and maybe I shouldn't say this, and maybe this is not the case, but I will never know because I just will never know. It's like impossible to delineate and separate these things. But that Martin Luther King wall that you mentioned, like if someone else got that job, or like did they give me that job simply because they needed representation, you know?
You're just that good.
I'll never know.
Yeah, right. Like, it's true. I know. No, I hear what you're saying, because you do have this. You're a favored, privileged group. If you're not aware, you actually have an advantage over a guy like me.
Yeah,
so.
That's like the affirmative action in reverse. You know.
Yeah. It's at the same time. I'll give you a little of my backstory with this. So I was born in 1970. I went through the public school system in Las Vegas, Nevada in late 70s, early 80s, graduated high school in 88. I can remember I didn't even know racism existed until I was educated about it. And it was probably like, I don't know, 4th grade, maybe 5th grade. And it was like the whole Martin Luther King that was like the one lesson, right? Like, okay, this week we're going to talk about this man. And then you start learning about like, they had different water fountains for people based on their like, what? Like, I just couldn't believe it. But
when were you born?
What's that?
When were you born?
1970.
Okay.
So, but what they taught us in school was like the tone they set was, this is all in the past. We don't do this anymore. That's this. And of course, as a kid, you're like, yeah, that just seems stupid. Like, who cares? And so I grew up with that feeling of like, racism is a thing of the past. Like, that's and then only to find it gets drug up from its grave and resurrected in my adulthood, especially during COVID, like right after George Floyd's death, you know, which I do consider a murder only because it's like, come on, man, you don't lean on anybody, you know, like, and expect that they're going to survive that. I mean, that's just my opinion. But regardless, it set off that whole tone and that wave of like now, and I, to your point, I felt like, in this town, there was a huge, like, especially from white people, like, okay, we have to show that we're allies. We have to show that we have more than just black friends. We're gonna fight and we're gonna do whatever with them. And it's like, I don't know, man. It feels a little like we're all playing a charade here. Like we're all human beings. Like where was that past that I remember where it's like, well, that was all in the past. Like, yeah, that happened, but it's like, we're not still living that. Like, why are we breathing life back into this dead animal? But anyway, that's kind of my rant on that. But I'm with you that special months to me I usually try to, if I think about it, I'll post something for Black History Month, like after it's over. Cause it's like, hey, now that Black History Month is over, let's talk about something going on in the Black community or whatever. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't relate to what that must feel like. I remember an interview with, was it Otis Spunkmeyer, the cookie guy? I watched an interview with him many years ago when I was a kid, younger, and I could see through his skin color to the man beneath. And it was just one of those things. And for me, I grew up in the church too, Church of Christ. Yeah. Our chief elder, like the most high up on the hierarchy of the church, was a black man. Yeah. So I just knew that, like, that's the guy you don't want to make mad because he's going to tell your parents that you're messing around. So I just had this understanding from childhood, like, yeah, people are the same. No, it doesn't matter. And then to see it all get drug up later to where we're at today, and it still becomes a thing. It's like, thought we were over this. And
I don't know if overcorrection is the right word, but it seems because it was brought to light again, and people like went to the other end of the spectrum, and now it's almost disheartening and a little defeating to not know if you're like actually qualified for something, or again, like I was saying, like, are you just given opportunities because of the optics of it? Just unfortunate, but I don't know how to really navigate that, or if there's any way to even change that. Or I think jobs should just be given based off merit, you know, ideally, and not based on your gender or your race or your sex or anything like that. But
yeah, I go back and forth on that one too. I've heard what I think is probably the best argument for, like, you know, the arguments for like reparations, for example. I forget who was explaining it to me, but it was like, imagine that, you know, suddenly, okay, you were a slave and now you're free, and now you have the world but you don't have any resources to start. Like, you don't have the same base layer that this other group has. Yeah. That makes sense to me, where it's like, okay, I can see that that's true. Yeah. But does that mean therefore that we need to therefore take a certain amount from these people and give to these people? Because doesn't that, like, I don't know, doesn't that take away from where they were, like, it's not their fault that they were at the higher base level either. It's going to just jerk the rug out from under them and give it to somebody else. And then does that make them feel like they didn't earn it? I don't know. There's so many. Yeah. I'm like you, man. I don't know how to solve it. I think faith is probably the best avenue, because we know from, I think what we do agree on is that you love God and you love your neighbor. And that is the foundation, you know, that Jesus said that's fulfillment. Yeah. If you can do those things, the rest of it is just, it's kind of gravy, because you jettison any sense of superiority based on anything. One of my other favorite scriptures, in Christ, there is neither slave nor free. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither male nor female. Yeah. And all these things that we have divided over culturally, especially in the last 5 years, they just kind of dissolve in that one section. Like, none of that matters. And besides, we're all going to die. Like, every one of us is going to die. Yeah. And do you think about that much? You're younger than me, so you probably don't think about it as much as I do. But do you? No, I'm curious about that, because I think about it every single day. Yeah. Every day I think I'm going to die. Yeah. Today could be the day.
I think that's the best way to live, you know. With that frame of mind, then you can actually live, and you're actually doing things that matter, and you're not I was on the way over here, I was listening to a podcast, and it was just saying just like imagine what's going to be on your tombstone, you know? And it was a guy named Francis Chan. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he was just saying like, I just want to be known as someone who's loved by God. Like ultimately I want to just distill everything down to just its basic thing. And he even mentioned like, that's how Jesus was known. Like when Jesus was baptized, he said, beloved, like, behold, this is my son in whom I love. Like if being loved by God is okay for Jesus, then that's got to be our ultimate aim as well. And we got to be content with that. So yeah, the just a reminder that we're going to die, I think is definitely always at the forefront of my brain for sure as well.
Yeah, I think about it so frequently mostly because I'm a husband and I'm a father, and I think about I want whatever happens to me, the aftermath, to go as smoothly for them as possible. So it's like having backup documents of, okay, honey, if I'm dead, open the safe. There's this document that kind of like, here's the life insurance policy numbers, close all these accounts. You got to make me dead on paper. And then, and I love you and you gave me the best life and all these things. And then for our children, do you have a love interest, kids in your life in the future? What are you thinking about for the future?
I mean, it would be ideal. Yeah. No significant other at the moment. Which, I mean, I don't know.
Is this, do you feel like your generation is having a harder time with this than the one before, as far as like finding a suitable mate and all that?
What would you would have a better perspective on that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I look at, how old are you?
32.
32. So yeah, I'm old enough to be your dad. So, I mean, my kids, of course, and I see one of them has definitely shown a lot of interest in that route, and tried and had some stumbles, and the other doesn't seem to show any care right now. Just like, I'm not interested in that. And then I have another daughter who's transgender, and by the way, that's so funny. Like her, I say, being transgender, I get, but you want to be an artist? Are you crazy? Like, don't do that, because she's a comic artist and has a degree in that and everything. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in an era where the movies were still, heroes and the damsel in distress and that whole trope of, men come in and save the day. And I loved it. And I still do. I mean, I love those romantic ideals, and having a wife is wonderful. Bonnie and I we'll be married 20 years in January, and it's like, it just gets better and better for us. And it's like a lot of the, not a lot of it, but some of the more exciting aspects of when you're first in love, those things wane to a degree because there's a deeper, more valuable thing that emerges, like the Proverbs 31 woman, right? Yeah. So this woman who is so capable and smart and strong, and her husband trusts in her, that's how I look at Bonnie's like my rock in life. Like I couldn't go through my life without her nearly as easily as I do, and it's not because she's the woman at home cooking and cleaning, believe me, but because she's just such a good person, and she loves God and she loves people, and she's just a bedrock that I can stand on and find support when I really need it. And she's the one person in my corner. So I had one failed marriage prior to that, and so didn't get it right the first time. But yeah, your generation I see struggling. And I don't know if it's because of all that proliferation of pornography and just wacky social media stuff. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I look at your generation and I think, man, and we look at the birth rates falling, there's all these indicators that are like, we're not doing people are having kids later, if at all. People are not even getting married. And, and the rise of, I can remember like I think I kind of remember like women in the workplace. Women were working when I was a kid, even though but I don't know. There's just been this erosion of what was American traditional kind of family structure. And I don't know if we ever get that back. So,
yeah, I think like you said, there's just so many variables that play into how the landscape right now with social media, dating apps, the lack of gravity and seriousness, it seems, with relationship, because things seem to be so trivial and not as serious with dating. People just aren't as or just don't place as much stock, it seems, in dating relationships and in that sense. And so, yeah, marriage has just lost its allure. It's not even allure, but it was just the marriage and the family were just the bedrock of like you said, of American civilization, and not even so long ago. And that's just not the case anymore. And I think that's just a huge, like, just pity. I think that's just a shame, because again, going back to the Bible, like, that's just how civilizations were founded and were set up, was on the family. And without that, it's like, I think things crumble. But going back to myself, I mean, that would be ideal. It's just more so about finding that person, and the difficulty that, like you said, that has been for me. So we'll see.
Ladies, pay attention. Well, I've learned a lot in the last, I think I've learned, I don't know, maybe I've just heard information and am taking it in still, but like the rise of, Jordan Peterson, for example, talking about hypergamy, which was a word I'd never heard of, but now like every young man's kind of familiar with that. Like, hypergamy, like women like to marry across and up. Like they don't want to marry there's a great, I always refer to this stand-up bit by Whitney Cummings. She's got this great bit. She's like, yeah, like ladies, when we go to the strip club, you know why we're cheering for the guy who comes out in the cop uniform, find that so sexy? Because he has a job. We're not cheering for the guy who comes out in his pajamas with a game controller and a Pop-Tart. Okay? It's like, that's such a funny bit, because that's just, indicative of where I think women's heads are at, generally speaking.
So, like, women, I mean, obviously you're not a woman, but you would assume that women
Did you just assume my gender?
I would never.
I don't know.
They would say that there's a lack of good men, and then I guess that's what
there are a lack of good men.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, increasingly so, because, well, back to family again, like, and this ties into another, podcast that I listen to a ton, the Dark Horse podcast. I love it. Evolutionary biologist, husband and wife team. Totally disagree with them from a theological point of view. However, their insights on like what drives the instincts of men and women is really interesting. So for men, they're like, if the theory is that you're trying to get your DNA as far into the future as you can, for men, the opportunities are endless, right? Like, and the costs are so minimal, right? Oh, you got to sleep with somebody and you can have a kid. Whereas for a woman, it's like the risk is so high. It's like you're going to carry a life for 9 months at the risk that the person who ought to provide for that child, or at least be a teammate with you to raise that child, could just bail at any moment. It's a super high risk for women. And that's, I think that was another, I've heard this too, that like the introduction of the birth control pill, I think in the 60s, it just lowered women's risk factor, right? So now they can be promiscuous. And it's like, it's funny, women who wanted equal rights as men, it's like, well, congratulations, you're just as disgusting as we are. Welcome to the club. Now we're all a bunch of animals. But anyway, I digress.
No, definitely. And then it kind of leveled the playing field in that sense, which you mentioned, like the workforce. Like if a woman decides to never get married and never have kids, and they can work just as hard, if not harder than a man can, but I think it's just on us as humans to decide like what we want, like if a woman nowadays wants to be CEO of Facebook or Google, like she has every right to do that. But if she wants a family, it's like something has to give. And that goes for everybody, like us as men, if we want to raise a family and be present fathers. And I mean, I'm sure you could speak to this, but you're not going to be able to be CEO of Google either, because you're going to have to give up time to spend with your children. And it's almost like you said, like leveled the playing field. And we both, like as society, just have to make decisions on what we value and what we want, Have you seen that, like just the sacrifice of career? Have you ever run into that with, like, maybe you have an opportunity or a job that would be a great opportunity, but you want to spend time with your wife and your kids? Or have you ever run into that?
I don't feel like that's the case for me. I mean, like I said, when I graduated high school, I don't know if I said this during the interview when we were talking before, but I just didn't know what I was going to do. I just didn't have a vision at all of my future. I was just like, I don't know. I was just looking for a job right away. For me, the reality call was my dad telling me, I'll never forget. He's like, I was 18. I think it was maybe my 18th birthday. And he's like, son, you're going to graduate high school this year. And your mom and I are moving to a new place. And you're not going to be there. Yeah. So you need to figure out what you're going to do. And it was like, oh, crap. Like, I got to. And so my mother, of course, always to the rescue. She had a friend who worked at a photo lab and who owned a photo lab, and a wonderful woman, Sherry Shelton. And she had a business partner named Jeff Gale. And they owned this company called Photo Finish in Las Vegas. And it was 1988, and my mother introduced me. I went in. I had just enough high school black and white development skills, prints and film to get a job. And that was how I started my career. And that's kind of what the trajectory I got set on was just from that. I mean, I knew I liked movies and I liked photos, I guess, but I just got lucky. My mom to the rescue got me my first job. And that just set off a chain reaction that kind of got me on the trajectory I ended up staying on, which was being in, mostly photography for many, many years. Didn't get into motion stuff till, maybe 13 years ago or so. Yeah. But, I just, and as far as relationships, I mean, I wasn't thinking about it. I mean, somewhere in the back of my head, I thought it'd be nice to have kids and it'd be nice to have a wife, but I didn't know I wasn't a good man. I didn't know what a good man was either. I wasn't mature. I wasn't responsible really. I mean, I could show up to work on time, which is more than I can say for a lot of young people today, quite honestly. It's like when I talk about like how it's hard to find good men today, it's like, for me, it's like, good men, like, start with the basics, like show up on time, do what you say you're going to do, like don't leave people hanging, don't ghost people, like be just generally responsible, set your clock for the right time, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then from there, finding out what women want, I think what men and women want is just different. I mean, Bonnie and I, we've been married almost 20 years, but at year 3, we were talking about getting a divorce. I mean, it was not good. And we didn't understand each other. I mean, I couldn't wrap my head around what was bugging her about me, and I can't speak for her about me, but I mean, I was not very pleasant when I would get, rude and unkind and unloving kind of responses. And so we went to a counselor who turned us onto this program called Love and Respect, and it was based on Ephesians, a biblical verse, right? Like, husbands, love your wives, and wives, respect your husbands. And it was like this whole premise of like men and women don't need the same thing. Yeah. Like, and the guy who did the thing was really funny. He's like, you can ask any guy, does your wife love you? Yeah, she loves me. Does she like you? No, not really, not today. And that's, men need to feel like they're appreciated for who they are, regardless. It's unconditional respect as opposed to unconditional love. Yeah. Whereas like, women generally like to feel like their man loves them, and I do love Bonnie. And so we knew the kernel of truth that really I always go back to is she's a good-willed person and she's a good-willed woman and she has my best interest in mind no matter what. Like that's the foundation. That's just truth, right? And so if she's upset, it's probably because I did something or reacted in some way that felt unloving to her. And so it's decoding and figuring out, okay, I know she's good and she's a good person and she loves me and I love her and we have so what did I do or what's going on? Maybe it's something simple like it's that time of the month and she's just having a bad day or whatever, but figuring out what it is and going, and being tender. And so we overcame that hurdle and now I feel like we're on the most solid ground we've ever been on. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. What about your parents? What are their secrets?
Wow, that's such a loaded question.
Yeah, tell me all of your parents' secrets.
Yeah, man, I think I'll get to that. I think when you initially asked me about like my desire to have a wife and have kids, and I think in hearing you talk, I think growing up. And again, going back to me just being okay by myself, I have had to grow so much in my willingness to be like interrupted in a sense, like because I feel like I could live my life just by myself. For the past, I think 6 years, I've lived with my mom, and my family, not a big fan of Albuquerque. They all have moved away. Parents are still married, but my mom ended up getting a job back here, so she ended up moving back. And since then, we've lived together, and it's just been the greatest learning process and growth process for me, because just living with your mom as a grown adult, and again, being so fine being by myself, it's just been a huge opportunity for us. One, to improve our relationship, like growing up, and I guess I'll get to this, but me and my mom did not have the best relationship. Just me being very disrespectful. Her kind of, I guess I shouldn't speak for her, but it seemed like she kind of attached a lot of expectation to me. And because I was not the best son in that sense, we just didn't have a good relationship, and I was just disrespectful. And my dad was traveling a lot, so she would try to discipline me, and I just wouldn't listen. Would laugh, and just didn't have the best relationship. So this time that we've lived together, I've been able to grow, and I think hopefully it's prepared me to be married one day and just be more cognizant of someone else. And in terms of my parents, I have two siblings. I have a half brother and a sister. My sister is 2 years older than me, same mom and dad. My half brother, same dad, different moms. And then me and and then I came. So my sister was born, and then my brother was born, and obviously we have different moms. And so my dad went outside of the marriage, and my mom could have left very easily. That's infidelity. It's one of the few things that are grounds for divorce. And she didn't. And she ended up staying. And I'm eternally grateful to her for that, because I'm lucky to be alive in that sense. And I think that kind of goes back to the expectation, because I kind of represented something to her. And because I was early on didn't live up to a standard, and because I was so rude and disrespectful to her, it hurt that much more. And since very close with my brother and my sister, and it's all copacetic now, but just early on that was just a very trying obstacle in our family. So yeah, definitely a lot of baggage that came with that, but and hopefully they're fine with me talking about this. I don't know. I guess I would have to. They're going to hear it, Noah. Yeah.
I'll have to give them a call. Dude, we've been talking about race and women. We are screwed. What else can we get in trouble? Let's talk about war.
Right.
Taxes. How about that? Well, we've covered death. We haven't talked about taxes, but I guess let's segue back into some of the business aspect a little bit, perhaps. Or not. We don't have to, but man, I could swear there were things I had in mind that I wanted to talk to you about that specifically too, but I don't know what they are anymore. It's too much fun talking about other things right now. What interests do you have beyond your art? What other things really get you going that you are excited about? I've seen you dance to your music when you're painting. You seem to have a musical flair.
Not really.
Nah. Sports still?
I do. Yeah. Basketball is probably my only hobby. I do watch a lot of sports, but I mean, I'm really just, like I said, I'm at church or I'm painting, I think, like you said, going back to the fact that we're going to die, I don't want to waste time on video game. Not to say that people who play video games are wasting their time, but it just doesn't feel like, for me, something that I should be doing. So I try to invest in people and go have lunch and break bread with people. So I would say people are a passion, just being there and being a good friend, and yeah, just trying to make the best work possible. I mean, I feel like I'm simple in that regard. Do you have stuff outside of? Oh, I've seen you pick up the guitar as of late and
play bass. Yeah.
Yeah. Or has that been a thing for?
I mean, I was playing in a band when I was young in my 20s, for a couple of years, but then I didn't pick up a bass for like 25 years. Only recently in the last couple of years.
Sorry, I disrespected you by saying that.
No. Bonnie, my wife, she's the one who encouraged me, like, you should start playing. And she drugged me to a place with some friends of hers that were playing. And I was so mad at her because I didn't know those songs, but eventually I was very grateful to her. And, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot about God and death and the universe. Like today in about 3 hours, there's another SpaceX launch, which I love. I'm so into rocketry, and I always have been as a kid. I loved learning about the Apollo astronauts. I do think we went to the moon, unlike some others for whatever reason. I think we didn't, but I listen to way too many podcasts. I'm a podcast junkie. I watch way too many YouTube channels. I'm a YouTube junkie.
Same.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Your YouTube is really good. Watching some of your videos again today, I know the work that you're putting into, and in fact, I'm quite astonished at how much work you put into, because I know what it takes. Okay, he had to set that camera there thoughtfully and run it and then remember and then move the angle and then you will narrate your videos. You'll be talking over. So you're doing audio on top of that and you're spending time. But it's been like 3 months since you posted. Talk to me about YouTube and about your workflow, that whole thing.
I have a question for you too. Before
Sure.
I guess I'll answer your question now and then I'll remember that later. But I think YouTube is like I think it's the way that I can really exponentially grow my platform, and I struggle with finding the time to execute. Frankly, I have like a year and a half worth of footage and projects that I've done and completed, and I just haven't had time to edit. And frankly, unacceptable. I think if I truly believe that that's the avenue that I need to pursue, then I need to prioritize that. But it's just so difficult to be a craftsman and also like be a YouTuber and a social media like content creator. And so still trying to grow in that aspect, like increase my capacity, increase my efficiency. I think that's like been the biggest just crux and biggest like wave that I've been trying to grow as of late. But yeah, YouTube is such a special space for artists, I think. Things, not even just for artists, just in general, things like Patreon. And you just have a rapport with people, unlike any other like social media platform on YouTube, I think. Like even the videos that you've posted, like people get to see into your brain and into the things that you believe in a way that is just so unique. And going back to the question, and the things that you listen to, and like when you mentioned SpaceX, I know certain people have such like limited views of the universe and of space. Like, does the idea of aliens or does the idea of another world ever like affect your faith or your belief in God as like ultimate creator? Or how do you think?
Not in the least. I believe what has become the most preposterous thing to believe, which is that I believe we're alone in the universe.
Really?
I really do. I think we are absolutely it. And I think it was designed that way on purpose. And it's not to say that there couldn't have been some kind of microbial life on Mars or whatever. I actually have a theory about the flood, that the water came from Mars.
Really?
Yeah, I really do think that, because it says the heavens were open. It's like, well, where did that water come from? Anyway, I think that I don't think I'm ever going to know in my lifetime let me put it this way. When I was a kid, my dad had these books. One of the books showed writings from like about 100 years prior, so 1800 something. And they had telescopes and they were looking at canals on Mars. And they had theorized about whole societies on Mars. And it clearly had a city because you look at these lines and then all this speculation, only to finally have the technology, which I think God gives humans the technology, right? Yeah. It's like he gives them the wisdom to build the things, the telescopes and the rockets. And you go there and it's like, this thing's dead as a doornail. There's no life here. It's dead. Yeah. There's nothing. You go to Venus, the most inhospitable place on Earth to life. Earth's twin, as they call it, because it's about the same size. It's like the pressure alone would kill you, and then you would just roast because it's like 850 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface. It's like, So, but if you looked at it from a telescope from some other solar system across the galaxy at this one, you'd be like, oh, there's all these habitable planets. It's like, there's one. And,
the
and
Goldilocks.
Earth is, Goldilocks zone. A little closer, a little further away, and we're dead. Yeah. It's like the atmosphere boils off, or we die from whatever. It's just like, to me, everything about life, I'm looking outside, the colors, the blue sky, it'll look blown out on the camera, but it's blue sky out there, and green trees and red paint, and it's like, the beauty, the thought, the power, the wisdom, like to me, it just screams, right? It's that scripture that's like, day after day, the heavens proclaim the glory of God. Night after night, they pour forth knowledge. It's like, yeah, like I go out and I look at the stars and it's like, this is impossible. Like, how can we even be here?
Yeah.
How can we possibly be here? And then if you run the clock back in your head, like, well, what was before that? What was before that? Was even every scientist of any salt will always admit, like, well, we don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there you go. You don't know. And this is where I land too. It's like, I don't claim to know anything. I don't. I have faith. And I think that's the difference.
That's the point,
faith and knowledge are different. It's like faith is it's right there. Faith is the reality of the things hoped for, the evidence of the things not seen. So it's like it takes a belief. Like I don't deny faith for what it is. It's like, yeah, I can't prove it. I don't need to nor want to prove it. Yeah. And just dissolving, for me, my religious upbringing, we were a very specific sect of Christianity. We had our weird things, like you couldn't have music
instruments.
You couldn't have no musical instruments, stuff like that. And you had to be water baptized. There's no excuse. Thief on the cross, he doesn't count for whatever reason. I don't know. It seems like he didn't get baptized. Anyway, but what I've landed on is love. It's like if I love people, regardless of what they believe, if I love the Muslim walking down the street in their burqa, and I have love and compassion for that human being and recognize I'm no better than them. They're no better than me. We are both going to die, and we are both going to face whatever it is we're going to face. I don't even know what we're going to face. I have ideas, but that's all they are for me. Like I don't take anything beyond what I, can possibly to try to judge people. Like I just don't judge people.
Yeah.
That's not true. I troll politicians mercilessly, especially the local ones. I will not deny it. But even though I can't stand the policies of New Mexico, and I think our governor's made some awful, she is still a human being, worthy in every respect of respect, love, compassion, gratitude, all these things. I'm no better than her, could never be better than her. She's no better than me, can never be better than me. And that's how I live my life, is like and that gets rid of the imposter syndrome too, because it's like everybody's got their thing. Yeah. Everybody's got their problems, their gifts, their talents, their blunders. And one day we're all going to find out, you know? So that's kind of where I land.
Yeah. Like you, just about perspective. I think that's kind of what you were getting at. Just like having that perspective of just we're all in this together and we're all like trying to figure it out. And, that's also what I was thinking about when you were talking about like looking at something from a telescope. Like when you look at Venus from a telescope, it may look great, but actually going there and actually spending time with people, you're less apt to like judge them in that sense. Like the actual like boots on the ground. Not to say that we actually like had people in Venus, but the robots that go there are able to see like more of a hands-on, and then with that perspective, you're less judgmental and less judgmental is probably the best word I can think of, but like getting to know people on a like individual basis just gives you that a better perspective, I think, and again just gets rid of that imposter syndrome for sure.
I will say the era we're going into right now with the AI and stuff, I don't know about you, but my default now is I don't believe anything I see, anything I read, or anything I hear from the get-go. Yeah. Any headline, any statement that I can't corroborate immediately is immediately suspect. Like especially every headline. I scroll a lot of headlines and it's like, Trump did this, Biden did that. It's like, I don't believe any of it until I have. And I think that's, maybe you've experienced this too, but even in my very own limited experience from having some kind of media exposure in the past, like, or being in a situation where it's like, oh, they got that about me wrong. Yeah. And this was just like a local news report and they totally missed this obvious fact that was given to them. It's like, if that happens, can you imagine at the scale where it's like really matters, that stuff? It's just.
And the news doesn't necessarily, they might, but they don't have an agenda per se. And if like a politician says something and this other outlet who doesn't like this politician has an agenda, then they even have motivation to try on purpose to take something out of context, you know? So that is I don't know if scary is the right word, but
it's scary. It is. Yeah. And I think that, you know, we lived through, like, COVID was just the weirdest time ever in my life. There's another thing. So from my point of view, my lifetime as a child, like, I was born in the golden pocket, man.
Think so?
Late 70s, early 80s, dude. Star Wars in the theater when it came out.
Yeah.
All the Breakfast Club when I was a teenager. I mean, that period was so amazing. It seemed like everything was just on the right trajectory. And then when 9/11 happened, man, that was just the first real big domino of freedom to fall for me. Yeah. It's just like 9/11, I'll never forget that. It was like, you must have been just a child.
I was 9.
9.
Yeah. So I definitely remember where I was. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, life was different before that.
Yeah.
I remember traveling on a flight under an assumed name.
Really?
With no ID, and it was cool. It was like 1993.
Were people smoking at that point, or was that already?
I can't remember if you could still smoke on airplanes or if they had gotten rid of that by that point. But I remember people smoking on airplanes. I remember being a kid, and, you know, they had ashtrays built into the little seat thing, and people smoke right next to you. Yeah, that was in fact, the correlation of America's decline corresponds proportionally with the lack of smoking in restaurants. That was a graph I saw. But just, I don't know, everything felt more free. And then the wars, all the stupid wars that still continue to this day, all these dumb waste of trillions of dollars on idiot wars that we fight in the Middle East for no reason. And then culminating in COVID, which was the ultimate debacle of human stupidity on every level, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was insane.
Insane.
Yeah. Like, one thing that always, because again, I stay up late. It's one thing I just never understood is, like, why COVID is more rampant after, like, 9 p.m. Like, COVID caused everything to close early. Like, why? Like, Walmart closed. Even the Frontier used to be 24 hours. Since COVID has closed at 1 a.m. And it just never made sense. Like, and maybe other things had played into that, but, like, Krispy Kreme, again, love donut, like Sweet Tooth. I have such a sweet tooth. Everything was open. Yeah, 24 hours. And since COVID, it's like, nope, 9 a.m. COVID's more rampant. 9 p.m., sorry. So stupid. Yeah, that was such a crazy time.
Yeah. It's in the aftermath, especially in this state, like, we were one of the most strict lockdown states. How many businesses did we destroy and ruin in New Mexico for COVID's sake? It's like, oh my gosh, like, what a dumb policy that all was. Well, that's it. No, this video just got canceled off YouTube. It's not going to be.
We talked about literally every cancelable thing, I think.
What cancelable things have we not talked about? What have we not broached? Let's see. Trans athletes. We don't have to go there. I don't know, man. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about?
I mean, we didn't really talk too much about politics. It's probably for the better.
Yeah, probably. This will be seen by politicians potentially, because I'll post it on LinkedIn and stuff. Where can people learn more about you? Where would they go? And I'm going to put all your links in my description.
If you want to, at this point, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, now that you know, it's like cancel,
right?
Unsubscribe.
I hope I'm not as bad of a person as I came across, but NB Artistry across all platforms.
NB Artistry, all platforms. I'll put the links in the description. And thanks, man. Thanks for taking the time just to hang with me. And
always a pleasure.
Yeah, dude.
You're a legend. So thanks for. No, and I mean, I don't say that facetiously. I always appreciated over the years, like, your advice and just being someone who's down the road, like, in the creative space. Just have walked the path. I have had questions for you, so I appreciate you always being there to share your knowledge and your home and just whatever, you know. It's definitely.
Dude, you are the next generation of creative, and your skill and talent is undeniable, and I know that you give all glory to God for that. Yeah. But you are truly a unique artist and human being, and
well, thank you.
I love you, man.
Love you too. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.